Hey, it's time for another edition of the Cseekly Recap. I'm your host Csomm, and I'm here to go a bit deeper into the topics that I've covered in my shorts. The footage behind is from the game Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Let's get this show on the road. The first topic of this recap is all about Subnautica 2. Subnautica 2 has officially crossed 5 million Steam wishlist just days before launching into early access. To celebrate, Unknown Worlds is giving every player a special in-game reward, the Reaper Leviathan statue blueprint. That was just before the game launched, but then, a couple of days later, it was reported that Subnautica 2 sold over 2 million copies within a couple of days of early access launch, putting Unknown Worlds in a strong position to secure a massive 250 million bonus tied to the game's success. The situation became infamous after allegations that Krafton attempted to avoid paying the bonus during a legal dispute involving delays and leadership changes. And as you guys know, reports also claimed Krafton's CEO used ChatGPT for advice throughout the situation. But now, with the game exploding at launch, it looks like the developers may finally get paid. First thing that I want to say about the whole Subnautica 2 situation, especially when it comes to the early access launch, is well done, guys. You did it good. Very happy to see that the game is still alive and kicking. And hopefully you managed to finish it so all of us that want to play it as a finished product can play it when the time comes. Because I really don't want to play this game in this type of an early access with everything being so fresh and stuff like that. I think if I started playing the yearly access version, I would be compelled to sink in so many hours into it, and then later on, as they are trickling the updates, as they are building the game, I would just simply lose interest because there wouldn't be anything interesting to grip me back in the game. Which is basically something that I always had issues with. Every single early access game that I played, I went full pedal to the metal. I wanted to explore, play, do everything that you possibly can do in those games. And then suddenly when I'm done with everything and the new updates start trickling down, I'm like, I don't want to play it. There's nothing substantial. Or rather, I played enough that I believe that it's not going to be enough of a content to bring me back to the game itself. So pretty much what I did, I just checked out a couple of Let's Plays, what people managed to post online. I checked a couple of reviews, or at least reviewers that I trust, and it looks like a solid game. It seems it's very stable, it has a lot of things to do, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's not a finished product, and that's the reason why I really don't want to go into the whole thing when it's still in this phase. The problem is that this game will take at least 2 years to finish, and I already said in one of my comments that I expect it to be 3 years before they finish the game. So now we are in 2026, so expect the game to be done in 2029, and that just is so, I don't know, disappointing to me, so demotivating to wait that much. I don't know. It would be rather obvious to say that I am not a person who likes these early access games simply because I need to wait before I get to the final product, and then essentially I might never play the full product because I will just get oversaturated by the early access stuff. That's one of the reasons why I never played Valheim, because that game is still in early access, and even though I heard and read about the game and people are praising it, I still feel that not playing a finished product is going to be detrimental to my whole experience, and I don't think I will be able to judge the game properly because, again, it's not finished. To me, the analog that I would use would be a car with windshields with windows, and you can drive it and it feels nice, but somewhere along the line when you're driving, stuff can get stuck in your face, bugs, paper, and when you're driving, when it's raining, it's not pleasant as well. And then, you kind of be like, okay, I will wait till they put windshields in and everything like that. But I will never drive that car again because I know how it's going to look like when I'm driving with windshields. And basically, I will never be able to experience the glory of the product that has been properly finished. Also, now that you're talking about Krafton and Subnautica and Unknown Worlds, it's so funny, and I said this in my previous commentary, that actually Krafton was the catalyst for the game to sell so good. Because imagine what would have happened if they didn't do the bullshit with let's not pay $250 million bonus to Unknown Worlds. Who knows, maybe this game wouldn't be in this particular state. The whole idea behind what Krafton was claiming is that the game was nowhere near finished and they hoped that it would be so buggy and unpolished that people would just bounce off. And now look, 1 year after they actually announced the original early access, the game is out and it feels better than ever before. So I don't know, maybe this delay was a good thing from a certain point of view, but certainly not the way they kinda managed to do it. So yeah, it's really funny how things unroll, so to speak. And speaking about how things are unrolling, Jonathan Rogers believes the biggest problem with Path of Exile isn't its overwhelming complexity, it's the fact that the game feels old. After 13 years of systems, mechanics, and content stacked on top of each other, many new players feel like they've already missed the train, and that's where Path of Exile 2 comes in. A fresh starting point designed to keep the depth fans love while making the experience easier to jump into it. I don't know how much you know about me and my preferences, but I like playing ARPGs. I played Path of Exile, played The Last Epoch, Torchlight, Diablo 3, Diablo 4, all that kind of stuff. And I did try playing Path of Exile 1 back in the day, and the whole point of why the game was complex was, in my opinion, lack of flexibility when you are making your character. If I remember correctly, and that was a long time ago, respeccing your character wasn't really a thing, so in order for you to avoid that particular problem, you basically follow the guide. And while for some people that whole thing sours the experience, for me that wasn't a problem. I never had issues with grinding, especially if grinding was reasonable. Now we can talk about what reasonable grinding means, and everybody has its own opinion, but at that moment I was okay. The main issue that I had with Path of Exile was latency. I had so many micro-stutters I couldn't play the game properly, which means that you cannot dodge stuff, you cannot anticipate attacks, because every now and then the game would stutter and it was just annoying as fuck. And my friend, who actually asked me to play Path of Exile with him, did almost anything in order to make the stuttering go away, but I suppose there was nothing he could have done, so I kinda gave up. And then came Path of Exile 2, and Jonathan here says that Path of Exile 2 is a fresh starting point designed to keep the depth fans love while making the experience easier to jump into. And you could argue that this statement is true from a certain point of view, but the biggest problem Path of Exile 2 has, or at least it had when it launched, was that it was unfinished as fuck. I seriously believe that that game shouldn't have come out when it came out, because the way things were working back in the day, the bugs, the design decisions, all that stuff, it just killed something in me. Not to mention devs sticking with their decisions, the design decisions that is, to keep things as is, was also infuriating. For example, there was an issue where you only had one portal that you could use while you were mapping. Trade was archaic as fuck, balance was all over the place, and my favorite problem is that you need to do campaign all over again on every single fucking character. And I would say that is a big problem for me, because these RPG games, especially when they have so many classes, you really want to experience all of them. But if I need to slog through a campaign that's, I don't know, 30 hours long just to play the character or the build that I want, it's demotivating as fuck. And then what you do, you go to the guides again, because again, you cannot customize your character as you go, because there are certain situations where you can just fuck up your build, but more importantly, you really don't want to rebuild your character if you fuck up, which means that you want to use the guide. And again, for some people that might be anticlimactic, but when we are talking about the situation that Path of Exile 2 is in right now, which is early access, stuff is changing non-stop, and if for whatever reason they decide to nerf the build because they think the builds are breaking the game, then all that hard work that you put in your character is just obliterated because your build might not function properly. Which brings me back to the original point that I had when I was talking about early access stuff. Just because it's in early access and everything is changing so rapidly, I just really don't want to be a QA tester for these people, telling them what's wrong, what isn't wrong, especially since I am the one doing it and I'm doing it for free. If you pay me, then maybe I would consider it, but doing it for free, and not to mention I need to pay in order to play the game, I'll just say no. I had my fill of frustrations when I was playing Path of Exile 2 when it launched, and all my points which I made were so aggressively attacked by the fanboys. But then later on, I noticed that the same people who were attacking me started mentioning things that I already saw that might be problematic when you play the game. So yeah, Path of Exile 2 is complex, but that's not the main problem. The problem is, like I've said, the game is still in early access, There are certain design decisions that are not great, and I believe that when I'm playing that game, it's wasting my time for no apparent reason other than it can. I know that you cannot compare Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2 when it comes to complexity, but at least one thing that Diablo 4 does it well is the ability to just make a character, make a class, and then immediately jump into the end game, and that's about it. It's that fucking simple. Yes, you do need to play a campaign once, and that's okay, but let's say if we are going to be a bit more stricter but still fair, I would say that, okay, you can play the campaign once every season, and that's basically enough. And every next seasonal character that you make is campaign free, it just goes immediately into mapping, and everything is amazing. And if they did that, I think it would be such a good move. But that's just my opinion, and if things are the way that they are in terms of that every single time you make a character you need to go through a campaign, then probably when the game fully comes out as Path of Exile 2 1.0, I'll probably play one class and that's about it, one character, because ain't nobody got time to go through 30-40 hour campaign just to play another character. But who knows, maybe they will change their minds, so it remains to be seen. Now, speaking about things that are gonna happen in the future, new Assassin's Creed, codename Hexe, rumors are here, and it is suggested that Ubisoft may be taking the franchise into a much darker direction, from witch hunts and ritual sites to tree-based parkour, and a possible return of Ezio Auditore. It could become one of the most unique Assassin's Creed in years. But with reports of troubled development and major staff departures, fans are cautiously optimistic. To be honest, saying cautiously optimistic is just giving a lot of credit to Ubisoft. I, for one, would say I expect absolutely nothing from them. Or, in other words, I expect everything bad, and then I will be pleasantly surprised if things are going to be okay. There was a time when I liked to go deep into these Assassin's Creed rumors, and I was imagining how games would look like, what I would be able to do, my character, the setting, the usual stuff with Assassin's Creed games. But now, I couldn't give two shits about this. All these rumors are nice and fine, but now I just want to see gameplay. Fuck the trailers, fuck the rumors, and fuck previews behind closed doors. I want to see raw gameplay footage, a good 20-30 minutes, them doing all kinds of shit and showing us the mechanics, showing us how the thing looks like, how it plays like. Because I ain't believing anybody else when it comes to Ubisoft games. I think they had benefit of doubt back in the day, but when they started doing stupid shit, for example, stuff with shadows that happened, and then over-bloating the games like there's no tomorrow, I simply don't want to play the same thing non-stop. So unless you really innovate in a nice way, then what the fuck am I supposed to do? It's just going to be same old, but with a different skin. So yeah, new Assassin's Creed is all nice and fine, but if you're going to do retarded shit, then I don't want to participate in that. That was the main reason why I didn't play Shadows, which is the first Assassin's Creed that I haven't played ever since the Assassin's Creed, the OG one, was released. And it's very simple why. I don't want to give them money for stuff that I don't approve, and that's how the world should work. But sadly, we have hype, we have fanboys and all that stuff, so you never can use the vote with your wallet mechanism because it just doesn't fucking work. Who knows what's going to happen with Assassin's Creed, but more importantly, who knows what's going to happen with Ubisoft. And frankly, I don't expect anything good. And finally, the last news that I covered this week was all about Star Wars Jedi Knight series. There was this article that said that Star Wars desperately needs Jedi Knight back, and while it was emphasizing on Kyle Katarn and the stories behind it, essentially they say that a modern reboot of Jedi Knight could bring back that perfect blend of gritty adventure, lightsaber combat, and old school Star Wars creativity. Look, I was a big Star Wars fan until Disney started doing the bullshit. And Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, that was the be-all, end-all games when it comes to lightsaber combat, and not a single game after that came even close when it comes to the Star Wars and lightsaber combat. And the reason is very simple. They made a lightsaber, one of the most iconic weapons in that universe, a fucking baseball bat that glows. If I hit you with a lightsaber, I immediately cut through you, and that's basically what it is. And when you think about how combat in Jedi Academy was working, it was perfect. If you didn't have any shield, you would basically take 1, maybe 2 hits if we are, let's say, aiming for a limb or anything vital, and you are dead. And you had shields, you could kinda tank a bit, which is all fine and nice, but at the end of the day, it would last so short, the fights, when you knew what you were doing, and you were just plowing through enemies, cutting and hacking limbs off, and all that good shit. And now, lightsaber is just, I poke you a bit and you're still alive. And that's the biggest problem any Star Wars game has. Now, I understand when you're making a game like RPG, stuff like Knights of the Republic and whatnot, there are certain mechanics that are kinda limiting you in how lightsaber behaves, but you can still make secondary health bars which are representing shield. Or, I don't know, if a character is using an armor made out of cortosis or whatever the fuck you can make up in order to stop lightsaber. So there are ways to do it, it's just people are so fucking lazy. And I'm sick and tired of seeing this amazing weapon turned into what I already described. So if you are going to reboot Jedi Knight series, the only thing that needs to be done properly is lightsaber combat. Everything else is very fucking simple. The story is already there. So the only thing that needs to be done is just graphically upscale the whole thing so it looks more realistic, because everybody's going for that fucking realism these days. And that's it. You fucking won the game. You rebuild the game in, I don't know, Unreal Engine 5 because everybody's doing that shit today, but then you need to make sure that it's optimized properly. And then you simply copy paste what we already have and you are good to go. You would make tons of fucking dollars because people love Jedi Knight series, especially the Jedi Academy, because that was the pinnacle of the whole thing. And that's basically it. You don't really need to complicate things. It's just people being retarded and adding all the stuff that does not belong there. Either changing story in some way that we have fucking alphabet people in it, or shoving that shit in our face, or changing the gameplay mechanics, but then if you change that, it's not going to be a proper reboot. Or doing God knows what just to obliterate the formula that perfectly worked back in the day. Don't get me wrong. I would be very much happy to see Jedi Knight series rebooted, but only if you do it properly. And trust me, it's going to be very easy to see if you fucked up or you made it good. And that's basically it when it comes to the news that I covered this week. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I encourage you to leave comments. I read all of them and I'm very happy to interact there with you guys. And remember, if you enjoyed the content, consider liking it and subscribing for more discussions like this. And that's it from me, until the next one.